So good. It is 5:32. I think we've got a great group here. Let me go ahead and just mute the people and go ahead and just unmute yourself if you want to ask a question. And otherwise, we'll just dig into it here.
This is Barb Hador, and just two quick housekeeping things. Somebody asked about raised hands. That's under the reactions button down at the bottom. And I don't know, Chip, if you want chat disabled or not. It looks like it is right now. Sometimes that's a nice place to queue up questions without speaking. So I'll mute now.
Well, thank you very much. I did not notice the chat was disabled. It is now enabled. And I see where the reactions allow you to raise your hand too. So if there's any problem there, you can do that. Fantastic. Barb, have you spent too much time hosting Zooms? People, I want the plague to be all over with. Let me share my screen here and we'll get started. It now being 5:33. I have so many things open. There we go. All right, so I sent out this set of notes about just the things that I would lay out, how I would go about explaining this. So this is pretty much how I'm going to go about explaining it. And just start with saying that the Firewise USA program is part of the National Fire Protection Association. And this is a group of firefighting professionals, fire chiefs, fire marshals, etc., across the country. And the program itself, the Firewise program, is structured as a way for residents to work together. Residents helping each other in teams, as a community, to reduce wildfire risk. But the NFPA, the National Fire Protection Association, is about a lot more, including codes and standards and education. I can play these videos. There's a video there and a link to the About page. In fact, let me just show you the About page, just to give you an idea of how much these people do. I'm going to share my, so about the NFPA, this is the video that is in that link in that document as well that I sent out, so you can get to that. It's a very short video, worth watching. But they do so much, codes and standards. They develop the codes, for instance, and standards for fire extinguishers, for installing fire alarms, and so forth. They get adopted into the national codes for building and construction and so forth, and become our local codes. So for instance, one of the things I just saw as an amendment to the 2021 version is that when you build a new commercial structure, or you refurbish, do a significant refurbishment to an existing commercial structure, any area where you're going to have the public gathering, you have to make sure that not only do you have fire alarms that are audible, clearly audible, but there needs to be a visual component to it now. That has become affordable and easily available, and so now it's written into the code. And it's the kind of thing that they work on. And they also do tons and tons and tons of education and outreach and so forth. And just to give you an idea, this is just the menu of public education topics that they're involved with. I encourage everybody to come to this site, spend a little time poking around. You're going to find tips here. I swear, every time you come here and poke around for 5 minutes, you're going to find a couple of tips that you want to put into action. Let me change my sharing back to, oh, and I see a couple of things in the chat here. What are we saying? Yes, emergency disaster management standards is something else that they've got out there. And they do accreditation for that. Pardon? Oh, I think we got a little side noise there. You can also become a certified wildfire risk mitigation expert through this program. If you want to become part of the body that can work directly with firefighters, with the fire department, with standards creators and so forth, you can get certified for all of that through this organization. So there's a lot to find there, but we're going to zoom in on the Firewise USA program and what's going on here. So the Firewise USA web pages, I'm looking at this line now. So it's part of a wider program of fire education and training. And so if you follow this link, you're going to find under public education, fire causes and risks, wildfire. Within that then is the Firewise USA program. And let's just quickly show you all that can be found there. So here under the wildfire area, we have, to begin with, right at the top, all sorts of resources. You've probably seen this diagram on what are the zones around your house, the 5-foot zone, the next zone, the zone out to 100 feet for various defensible space and hardening activities. Exterior sprinkler systems, fact sheets on that. They have a new program coming out, how to outthink wildfire. It's another good way to think about these problems that they're helping us to organize. And I encourage everyone to go. Everyone who's worried about their neighborhood burning, I encourage you to spend a little time on these pages. And again, the Firewise USA program is found under this. And if we look here, wildfire is where we're at. Wildfire USA is one of the topics here. Preparing homes for wildfire. That's quite a bit of information itself. Wildfire preparedness tips. Training and certification is available. But let's zoom in now on the Firewise USA program. Okay. This program is it's very simple to get involved. It's a way to manage risk in your community. It lets us get an idea of the various identified risk factors that contribute to the danger of fire, destroying homes and killing people in your neighborhood, in my neighborhood, and trying to figure out what the percentage risk, how much of this do we have of each of these different types of things. And it has very simple steps to get a handle on that. And then if you know that, gee, 20% of the homes in my community have junk piled up against the house. Well, that's a very easy number to get down. You might be able to get it to 0 just by going around and helping people reorganize the stuff that's piled against their house. If you've got 10% wood roofs, that's going to be a harder prospect to fix, but you know what the number is. If you can get it down to 9%, that's a big step in the right direction. You can start putting numbers on the effort that it takes to reduce your various risk factors. So back to come on, there we go. So the steps involved in the Firewise USA program are simple. First, you identify your site and your resident leaders. Someone has to basically be responsible for filling out the application and be the person that they call if they have questions and so forth. So you need 1 or 2 people willing to take that role, and you need a team that you put together that can help get the word out to the community. But primarily, you need to, at the very first, have one person who's going to be carrying the flag for your program and get them fired up and support them.
Chip, may I ask a question?
Yes, absolutely.
So when we're talking about for your program, we're talking about for individual divisions. Is that how we're still identifying areas?
So if your division is a community, you've organized with these people and they all communicate back and forth and so forth. That's a wonderful, great, large area to work with. If you feel, and some people have said this, that for instance, they're working within an HOA that's only about 50% of what was a division. That's great too. They don't really have reach outside of that. We've got some people that are just a few streets. The program wants to see, I believe, a minimum of 8 homes in the program for a site, and I forget what the maximum is, but I think it's like 2,000 or something. But you can get quite a large area of whoever is in communication, whoever you think you can rally, and do outreach with, and feed information to effectively. Whoever is your natural community.
Thanks.
Linda, you're muted. Let me.
Can you hear me now?
Sure can. Linda, hi, how are you doing? Hi, Perry.
Hi.
Hi, we're doing okay, thank you. I'm wondering, is there a way that we could work with just, maybe like 20 or 40 homes in the 4 streets that we communicate with? And would that have any, the other thing that we're wondering about is the impact on our insurance.
Yeah, and I'm going to come to a little mention of the insurance and the impact and what's going on there. More insurers are paying attention to this. And in fact, there was a bill up to become law last year.
Are you trying to hear? Well,
it ended,
it can be.
whoop, let me mute you again there. It ended up being tossed out. I don't know why, but it basically was trying to enable the insurers in California to have a disastrous wildfire fund to help them cover policies in high risk areas, so they didn't have to just cancel people. The problem with insurance right now is that the insurers' hands are tied. They can't just say, oh, we now recognize that this is a much higher risk area, so we're going to adjust the premiums, but let you keep your policy. They can't do that. So their only option is to cancel your policy. And that's why so much of that has been happening. But that's starting to change. The lawmakers are there's a big effort on the part of communities to become harder to burn. And the insurance people want to be able to write policies. So this is going to keep getting hammered on until more and more becomes available. Was there another question out there? Yeah, go ahead, Linda. I'm sorry I muted you again. Linda, I can't hear you. Can you unmute? There
Okay. Can you hear me now?
You sure can.
Okay, so as I said before, we are in close communication with about 40 homes, which are on Brookwood, Hardwick, Lynn, and Sheridan. Now, is there a way that if we worked with those 40 homes and could get most of them in a pretty good shape in terms of fire, that we would have some impact on insurance? Because I did have a neighbor on Hardwick saying that her insurance company had threatened to cancel her insurance and she was pretty worried about it. So do you think that would be viable to just work with like 40 homes on 4 streets to have any impact?
Yes, if you got reach to those 40 homes, bless you. Yes, do it. I'll make sure that your you are seen as a leader that needs to be followed, and other people will follow your example, and together as a team we'll try to do that everywhere. But yeah, do what you can there, and
Okay.
I'll try to magnify that everywhere, and together, yes, we will try to get these insurance issues resolved, and stop some of the problems people are having just affording it or getting it canceled. Yeah, definitely go for it. It helps
Okay.
a lot.
Okay. Thank you.
Uh, So the steps involved, again, are clearly identifying our site, your site, doing a whole risk assessment with the WFPD, and that literally, let me show you. Here in Woodside Hills, we had the whole gang out. We had people from the fire department. We had a guy from CAL FIRE here who's our liaison with the Firewise program. We had Selena and a cadet out with us. We had a neighbor who luckily was obscuring her face, so I can't identify her from that. And we were looking up here, we were looking at the easement, the PG&E easement out behind Ridgeway there, between Ridgeway and Highway 280. And noticing that, for instance, right on the other side of the fence there, we need a good wide fire break. We need to get that mowed and keep that maintained. And we're going to be getting on with them and organizing a regular schedule so that that gets done. But what we're looking at here right now in the corner here, this road at the bottom, so you see we're standing at the end of the road that ends at the gate, and the easement's on the other side of it. But right here by the side of the road, just a lot of dead grass and shrubs and so forth that are piled up. And this green stuff here is the corner of someone's property right on the other side. So if fire comes along through here, it would just sweep right along the ground with any kind of a breeze. It would hit this, flare up, light up whatever is next in this person's yard, and away they go. We've got a huge problem. It's basically just a long fuse leading up to this home, and this is happening in all sorts of places. When you take a good close look at it and imagine that you're a flame trying to get to the houses. There are quite a few places where it's not hard to imagine that working out just fine for you as a nasty little flame. So we're going to be working to make their life more difficult. Once you do that whole site risk assessment with the fire department, and California recommends just using the NFPA's template, and I'm going to show you that in a second. You got to sign up some people for your board, just basically to help with the outreach. Try to make sure that you're reaching as many people as you can, and you've got people on there. For instance, our town manager in Woodside was very happy to join with us. Our fire marshal, very happy to take a position on the board. I'm currently still chair of the WPV-Ready committee, and vice chair of the emergency preparedness committee in the town. So I'm happy to be on there and put that credential on a recommendation and so forth, and just everything we can do to make them see that we have serious attention focusing on these issues. All the players in our community are very encouraging and willing to help out. Then we create a project plan. They want to see a 3-year plan. What are you going to do for the next 3 years? And boy, I scratched my head over that. And then our fire marshal, Don, found a couple of samples. Actually, he got them from our guy at CAL FIRE, and sent me a few samples of what other people had done. And I said, well, great, I'm just going to pick the best of both of these and put them together and make sure it's tuned to Woodside Hills, to our community. And that becomes our plan. So you don't have to invent this stuff on your own. You can take it from other people who have spent a lot of time and effort and blood and sweat and tears working out some decent plans. Then you just need to keep track of the activities that you do over the course of a year. They want you to have a couple of events, and we're just talking about get people together on a Zoom if you can't get together in person. Otherwise, get together in person and have a little barbecue. Just focus on the Firewise agenda, make sure people are being educated and so forth, and that you're doing that outreach, and document that. They also want to keep track of the vegetation that's being cleared, fuel removal basically. And they want to see an investment of 1 hour per dwelling unit, and that there's a standard nonprofit translation into 28.54 per dwelling unit. If you, for instance, if you take out a tree, we took out a tree that was really kind of hard to get at. They had to bring in a bucket and so forth, and it cost us $3,000 to get that tree out. So that was worth 100 homes right there, the annual investment for 100 homes, just taking out one tree. When we got a list of all the projects that the town had backed through their matching fund program and added up what the residents had spent total, we were at $150-something thousand that had been spent last year just on projects the town was involved in. And that's huge. I didn't even realize that we were already being so motivated. It made me feel good. Organizing that much effort will get a lot more done too. But that's something like 20-30 times what you need to meet the minimum. So if you live around here and you're doing the bare minimum to keep your property from getting overgrown, or you just take out a couple of those dangerous eucalyptus trees in the neighborhood, you're covered. That's it. Your investment requirements are taken care of. And so let's take a look at the template, the application, and some samples. This is the template form that I just downloaded from the Firewise site, and a lot of introductory material there. And this is about the assessment, about the general risk assessment. And this is something that's done with the professionals, with the fire marshal and so forth for the whole area. We did a drive around, spent half a day looking at everything around the edges, drove up and down a number of streets just to get an idea of what the general condition is. What are the vulnerabilities of homes to embers, surface fires, and crown fires? What are the conditions of structures? What are the immediate hazards within the home ignition zone? Again, are there a lot of people that are in the habit? And it can be a cultural thing in a particular community. Hey, on this street, everybody piles junk up against the house. We've got to try and push back against that. Help them unlearn those habits. What are the concerns presented by common open space areas or adjacent public lands? And we don't really butt up against any public lands here, except for Solstaff Park. And then we have the easements around us, but there's a lot of public land abutting up to communities in other places. A lot of you people out there have park land right next to you, over your back fence and so forth. And that needs to be taken into account. If a fire can burn through that area and reach your land, then it makes it easier to reach your home. If that land, that public land, is safer, if there are fire breaks and so forth, and CAL FIRE and the fire department and so forth is happy to work with us to do those fire breaks, to take out dead trees and so forth. They just need to work with us proactively. We need to be proactive about it with them and get those risks mitigated. But be aware, looking over the fence, what's on the other side. Just because it's not a neighbor of yours doesn't mean it can't burn and present a threat to you. So,
Chip, may I ask a question?
absolutely.
So one concern I can see people having is that if their house is identified as having all these issues, or their property or someone else's property, where does this information reside? And is there some risk that an insurance company can get a hold of the information and then deem you uninsurable or not worth insuring?
There is not. There is all the information that's supplied for a community is held by the NFPA and is not shared with insurers. I take that back. I think that there is some usage of anonymized data. There's no way for them to identify what area. If they found the Woodside Hills was just a huge risk, the insurers could not find that out. And likewise, we have some assessment forms online that allow you to do an assessment on your own property and keep track of what risks that you've identified on your own property. And we will never share that with anyone. We won't even share that with anyone outside the fire department. We can give people aggregate numbers, but nothing identifiable. We treat that as super sensitive information.
Thanks.
You bet. So in the assessment, basically now here, they're just looking for who the participants were, identify the site, answer some basic questions. What kind of dwellings are there? How many units, how many residents, et cetera, et cetera. And rather than go over these individually, what I will do is jump to the one that is filled out for Woodside Hills. So you can see we had a CAL FIRE Firewise liaison, Chase Beckman with us, Don Bullard, Selena Brown, and Dan Dempsey from the fire department, and me, the leader in the community, oops, mouse, don't do that. So what's the name? Woodside Hills, where is it? San Mateo County, etc. What are the boundaries? All very simple stuff. What's the area? And this is optional, but it's easy to calculate. And I will help anybody who has any questions about the area that you're covering. I'm pretty good at reading that off of a map, and we have tools that will measure on a map and tell you what the area is. We have about 300 dwelling units, about 700 residents. It's all single family, and lots by definition here are greater than 1 acre. So we know that all of them, 100% of them. And there are other notes that I attached because we had 9 pages of notes and I think 95 pages of addenda. Much more than they cared to look at. In fact, the first couple of times we submitted it, we had beautiful written up, there's the assessment, and we answered these questions in order, but they basically said, please just fill out the assessment. So we filled out the assessment and attached the rest of it as notes to this. And then describing the local wildland fire characteristics. And you know, the big things here, we have attached notes, but the big things for us is that there are some unmanaged areas and creek beds, et cetera, that run right down the middle of developed community areas. Mostly are managed properties, but there's too much eucalyptus and black acacia growing in the area. So, you know, if anything did get up into the crown of those, it would certainly, I think, set some homes on fire. We have generally gentle slopes with a few steep areas, and there's a topographic map enclosed. So I know where to get those. I'll help you get them for your area. We're not in an area with regular exposure to severe winds of any sort, and we have no history of wildfire occurrence in Woodside Hills. There we go. So observations then, they're looking for roofing materials, just general broad observations. How safe are the roofing materials, the soffit vents, you know, are you using that Vulcan vent material or something like it? Do you have siding that's unburnable, or at least part way up, some skirting that is non-combustible? Are the materials, yeah, so siding the whole side of the house, skirting the first few feet up, looked at separately. And having the skirting gets you like 90% of the way there to keep something from traveling along the ground and getting up to the house. So we go through these general questions, the gutter types, the window types, and so forth. And then we go into your immediate zone, 0 to 5 feet, generally what is observed in the neighborhood, 5 to 30 feet, 30 to 100 feet. And are there adjacent public lands? We are not here adjacent to wildlands with accumulated fuels. There are some areas out there, I'm sorry to say, where you're going to have to answer that very differently. You're adjacent to wildlands with a lot of accumulated fuel. And then just a general summary. Our conditions are generally better than many surrounding areas. There's still plenty of room for improvement. Detailed assessments of each property will be undertaken over the next year, and more focused projects designed to mitigate the worst problems. And the recommendations, one of the greatest concerns in our area is the presence of many eucalyptus, palm, and black acacia trees, and we're working to eliminate all of them over the next few years. I hope you've heard that coming from my mouth at least already, but it's kind of a goal of mine is to try and get Woodside, and starting with Woodside Hills, eucalyptus free, nuke the ukes, get them all out, not a single eucalyptus growing in our area. And then same goes for palms and black acacias. If you've ever seen any of these things burn, man, well, if you haven't, just go on YouTube and search for burning eucalyptus or burning palm, and you'll see some really scary things in the way that they burn and the showers of embers that they send into the air. It's just absolutely staggering. It's like fireworks being shot at your neighbor's roofs and your roof. We do have a problem that there are a number of homes with fixed income or elderly residents who've been unable to manage the overgrowth of shrubs and grasses on their property and to keep trees trimmed up, and we'll be working with them. This is something that the WPV-Ready program started doing last year with the Young Men's Service League. There'll be a video out about that soon, and you'll get the announcement. But they did a project. They did their big annual project in our area, helping us to reach people who were unable to clear their property. And it's just amazing the difference that this group of young people was able to make in several of the properties. And we're going to be doing this again year after year. And looking for ways to do it on a more consistent basis and reach a lot more people. There are people out there that would love to have their properties more clear, and they're just unable to do it for whatever reason. We want to help them do it. The next steps, etc. This is a map of the community. Again, I can produce this for you out of a tool that we got. No problem. Take me a few minutes. And definitions, dwelling unit. This one here, we've got this recent additional dwelling unit laws going in and so forth, and it's unclear to me how this all counts towards the Firewise count. If you have a second unit, an ADU that's just a few hundred square feet and it's got a kitchenette and a bedroom, does that count as another residence? I don't know. Mostly we're single home per parcel residences here, and that's the way that we've been counting them. It's a voluntary recognition program. There is an online portal where you go and create an account, and you figure out who your leader is. I urge you, go ahead and do it today. Go sign up, create the account, and start taking a look at what the application looks like. And there's an annual renewal process to remain in good standing. It's very straightforward. The project list, your plan of what you're going to do in mitigation, that only needs to be updated every 3 years as part of your annual good standing submission. And the area-wide assessment only needs to be submitted one. Excuse me, I got little hiccups. Only once every 5 years. So it's not like you got to go through this whole process every year. You just, once you get started, you work that plan, and every few years you update the major components of your forecasted effort. And let's take a look then at, if I can get this out of the way. Hello. So this is what our project plan looks like. And again, I just flat stole this from 2 other communities, and then combined it, took the best of everything that applied to us, cleaned it up, tried to prioritize it and organize it in terms, especially in terms of the defensible space and home hardening. These things, definitely you can get funding if you're in the town of Woodside. These are the kinds of things that will get you reimbursed, get you met 50-50 up to $3,000. So that's an important category for us here. The education program, what are we going to do? We're going to encourage all the residents to register on the WPV-Ready website, and I encourage everybody here to do that and participate in the preparedness programs, and to complete the 3 preparedness jumpstart steps, which get on SMC alert, get yourself a go bag. I'll show you where those things are later. And then do focused mailings of local and WPV-Ready materials. And by the way, count on WPV-Ready to supply all the support you could need for this. We've got more than enough to demonstrate to them that we're serious, we're organized, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you're more than welcome to, in fact, that's why it's there, to support programs like this, to demonstrate, to educate our residents, and to demonstrate to others that that we're working on this in organized ways. Year 1, year 2, and you can see here again, part of our focus is to work with residents who require extra assistance in their fire safety projects. And year 3, a fairly simple list. It's not as much stuff as it looks like when it's written down. It's all really just kind of like, yeah, check, check, check. Special efforts, the public safety power shutoffs are likely to occur. So we need to, I think, do more about that. And in fact, PG&E has just recently sent out, and I'm going to post this soon, they've got a program for neighbors forming community groups to assist each other in the public safety power shutoffs. And I think it's a great idea. I'd just love to see people take advantage of that, and we'll see how that works, see if we can get some good use out of that. And then in general, we're focusing on emergency preparedness and radio use, and make sure that people are aware of those resources, and we're getting that out as part of the fire mitigation, the risk mitigation effort. Part of that is general preparedness. If there's an earthquake, it's likely to start little fires. A large earthquake knocks gas lines loose, small fires could be breaking out all over. And so while we have focused on being harder to ignite through this Firewise program, we also want to focus on how to stay fed and warm and support each other as a community after we put out the little fires and they have not burned the houses down. Next document here is, I just want to walk you through what the online application looks like. This is the first step. It's just the contact information. Very simple. The second step is the site information, and they list the regional coordinators there, and you tell them just a little bit. How many dwelling units? How many residents? Do we have a website? Yes, we do here have a website. Sorry about all that. There is, you can have a background image for your account. That's new this year. I haven't even loaded one up for us yet. Update your risk assessment. So that's the form that I just showed you. You fill out that template, throw it in here, and you've got that risk assessment done. You can upload a new risk assessment, and you can see here I also uploaded all of these other things that we had prepared, and I don't know if they even looked at them, but I thought, hey, as long as we've got this information ready, here you go. And if someone has a question, I'll just tell them, oh, I've already uploaded that. Take a look at this file. That's in there. You got that map. You've got that whatever. You got our detailed observations about wind directions and slopes and so forth. We got all that. The action plan, again, that's the document that I showed you already here. That's just our 3-year plan. And that's just step 5, upload that plan. I think I skipped step 4. Step 4 I skipped because it has some sensitive identifying personal information. It's just a list of the people on our Firewise board. Local residents, our town manager, our fire marshal, a lot of good people there willing to, and by the way, the town manager doesn't have a lot of time to spend on this stuff and will rarely chirp in, but is happy to read the messages that are going around and keep an eye on us and make sure that we're getting the support we need to get things done efficiently and not running into roadblocks and so forth. They're definitely there to jump in and help us. Your educational outreach, they just want you to do these things. Did you do a National Wildfire Community Preparedness Day project? It's the first Saturday in May. Coordinate a community-wide awareness education activity that increases wildfire risk reduction actions and overall preparedness. We'd be more than happy to put together a webinar that focuses on these things for the residents and covers the Firewise program plus all sorts of other tips like I was showing you. We've got tons of information on their site that would qualify, and give it in your neighborhood, specific to your community. Delivered door-to-door information on wildfire danger. Welcome packets that are given to new residents. All of these things qualify as outreach activities and events. A minimum, you're required to hold a minimum of 1 wildfire risk reduction educational outreach event or activity annually. But as you can see, that's a pretty easy ask. It's very low hanging fruit. COVID-19 challenges. You know, if you put together a one-pager on what are the local challenges presented by COVID-19, if there should be a wildfire come through, you have fulfilled your obligations here. I'd love to see everybody do one of each every year. I don't think we're going to get that much done here, though. So your results may vary. They want to see you record vegetation removal. How many truckloads or cubic yards of vegetation were removed? And you can get that information from the chipper program. They will tell you how much that they removed. They'll also tell you how much they spent during that process in your area. And that is part of your investment in the program. But they, you know, the more that is removed and reported here, the better our community looks when it does come time to talk with insurers. If we've got 5 or 6 communities in the fire district that are doing this and they see big quantities everywhere, then we have something loud to say. And then the risk reduction investment, again, 1 hour per dwelling unit or 2854. I can't highlight that. Okay, fine. Or 2854. That's the currently established hourly volunteer time equivalent. And so for us, $8,000 was the required minimum, or 290 hours, and we put in many thousands last year beyond that. So I think let's see. Let me just say first that when we first submitted, it was not clear to me that they wanted to see all of this detail in the first year. I thought it was get your area-wide assessment done and then start working on these things. And turns out they wanted to see all of this. So I just started reaching out, and I very quickly had $25,000 worth. So that took care of it in receipts just from 4 different neighbors who sent me some receipts. And that was before, and then I submitted all that. And then I got the thing from the town of Woodside that showed $150,000 worth of investment. And so this again, $8,000 compared to what's actually being spent by our residents right now, that's a very low hanging fruit kind of a target. And that takes us pretty much through the details there. Let me see where we're at here. So in later years, manage the risk and focus on problems. And how can I highlight that? Okay, just follow your plan. Have events, a couple every year, keep people involved, keep track of your progress and get copies of receipts and punch it all in online. Update the area-wide assessment every 5 years, every year if you feel like it, every 5 years at a minimum. Same for the action plan, every 3 years minimum. They want to see an update on that. We have an online tool for Firewise assessments and emergency preparedness assessments on the WPV-Ready.org website. Let me just pull that up real quick. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set that aside and finish telling you about this. It's an easy program to run. I want to stress that. It sounds like a lot, but they're just simple little things that you line them up one at a time and just check them off and do them. So, and I'll help you do every one of them. Don't even worry about the effort involved. It's almost nothing once you got it all figured out. And I've been through that, so I'll hold your hand. The support is widespread, becoming more widespread, and it's really just about neighbors helping neighbors. Benefits are big. The biggest benefit is knowing the risks, knowing what the problems are and what the biggest risks are in your community, so that you as a community, neighbors can get together and say, oh, we've got a real problem with just dead brush that's sitting around that needs to be cleared out. And we can get some people out there and get that cleared out easily. And we can get that risk factor from a 9 out of 10 down to a 3 out of 10 real quick. Great. Go for it. You've got a number. And once you've got a target, you can measure it, then you can improve on it, and you can see what the improvement is, and then you can say, well, how much did it cost to get that much improvement? Gee, it shouldn't cost much more to get that down to 0. You can start answering those kinds of questions once you're actually managing it through. And again, this gives us the tools to do that. Insurers are offering some discounts with more coming. Let me just cue that up too for when I get back onto that. And we can feel safer. Everybody in the community can feel safer, and you can tell people that, yes, you really can feel safer because we've reduced the risk that we're going to lose our homes. and also, and you know, the fire department will not comment on this, but just think about this logically. If the fire department has a wildfire approaching, and your community is known to be very hardened, and you have reduced your risk to the point where the same effort in your neighborhood, in your community, will save 10 homes that it takes to save one home in the next community over, the fire department's going to go where they can save 10 homes. Unless there's some other overriding factor, and they take everything into account, you know, where does the fire go next, et cetera, et cetera. But their number one priority is to save lives and then property. And, you know, if your neighborhood has been hardened and is easier to defend, that's where the professionals will spend their limited resources when stuff hits the fan. So let me just then real quick show you my screen with, and that just went away. Don't pause it, keep going. Okay, fine. Share it again. There we go. So this link again is in the document that I sent around, and it's going to be available online too. When I get this video edited up and posted online, I'll send out a note to everyone, and all these files and so forth will be available for your inspection. But this is a list of from the insurance commissioner, California insurance commissioner, of residential property insurance companies currently offering discounts, and there are more to come. And this will tell you, like for instance, Allstate, discount based on property parcel mitigation, and you can get to their website. Since July of 2008, I'm not sure what their discounts are. I know that USAA, the US AA group, has been offering this for a while, and is actually listed on the Firewise USA site. I don't know why these others haven't been. I just recently found this resource, but I noticed that some of these are fairly new, and so some of this stuff just takes a while to get published. But here, for instance, State Farm for Firewise communities is offering discounts starting February of this year. Firewise communities, Falls Lake Fire and Casualty, some of the other big ones. What else do we have? What else do we have? I thought I saw another one that was really good. California Auto for Firewise communities. All of these, just it's worth poking around here to find out more. These are the people that are already playing with us, cooperating with communities that are trying to reduce the risk. So, you know, they're in the business of covering risk and helping us get back on our feet when our risk coverage failed and something bad happened. Well, you know, if we're bringing those risks down, then this is where it should be showing up as a benefit to us, and it's happening. And we're going to do everything we can here to have discussions with all of the insurers and so forth as we get some more people into this program. The other thing I wanted to show you is here on our site, WPV-Ready.org. If you come here just to the main page, I'll just show you. And you say, oh, sign in. Well, I don't have an account. You can register here with this button. We do have a test account here. Leslie's my wife, so we'll be looking at my property here. Under my profile, whoops, my profile, Firewise assessment. So you can see that we have basically the same questions that are being asked in the community assessment, but this is something that we can do as individual residents to see where do we stand with regard to the various risk factors. Do I have ember-resistant soffit vents? Yes, partial, no, unknown, does not apply. So you got an answer that should cover just about every case that we can imagine. And it gets scored up. And so, for instance, we see here, got a 195 out of 220, 89%. I'd like to see 100%. I'd be much happier if we were in the mid to high 90s, but my home isn't quite there yet. And we break it up into, again, the same categories that are on that community assessment. So we've got the immediate zone, the intermediate zone, and the extended zone. You know, and this is part of the issue that we have here is the zone free of dead vegetation. No, we've got a little dead vegetation out there around the fences that we got to get more serious about clearing away. And other, are you distant from any wildland with fire risk problems? Yes, we are distant. And basically, that sounds like a little weird way to ask this, but if you say yes to everything, you get the highest possible score. So this one had to be asked in just that way. Are you distant? And rather than saying, are you right next door to a high risk? Just to keep it, if you see all yeses, you got 100%. That's about it for that risk assessment. I'll show you too, just the Ready assessment. This is all taken from our basics of emergency preparedness class that we hope to be giving live again soon. And is everybody registered for SMC alert in your household? Do you know your zone haven zone? Do you have an emergency plan? And you'll see that all of these things, you know, you can link to Zone Haven, for instance, and get information on your Zone Haven zone. If they ever do start an evacuation and they say, oh, zone E90, Woodside E90 is to be evacuated, then if you're in that zone, you know it's time to head out. And if you've been evacuated, you can look on their site and it will post what the status is. If it's safe to return yet, you'll see it there. Our fire department and CAL FIRE and so forth are using this now, and seems to be pretty effective. Do you have an emergency plan? Do you have a go bag, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? Just basically things you can tick off here. And if you can tick off one of these things every month or two, and you got it covered, then you're pretty prepared. Each little thing, you're basically just preparing for one little thing to go wrong, and it adds up to, well, you're prepared for pretty much all of the big stuff too. All those little things are the things you worry about after an earthquake. So I encourage you to come to this site and register with the sign in page here, the register button, and get on these lists. There's at the bottom too, by the way, I want to show you this. The bottom of every page, you can get to our discussion groups and make sure that you're on there, getting the groups.io discussions. We have a direct mailing list through MailChimp, where we sometimes just send direct emails one way. We have a YouTube channel. We have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. This is ours, again, a link to Zone Haven and excuse me, the SMC alert system. So if you have trouble finding any of those resources that we're recommending for you, look at the bottom of any page and you'll find it there. I think that gets me to the end of what I wanted to share in the order that I wanted to share. And again, the next thing to do is, you know, really just somebody in your community, contact me. We'll get you signed up. I'll sit down with you online and we'll get you signed up and start the application, and you can start filling in the details. Do we have questions now? Please, somebody ask a question.
I do. Chip. All right.
Yeah, go ahead. Is that Kim?
Yeah, just wondering for this effort, for you and for the other neighbors, how many person hours do you think were invested to achieve certification?
You know, I think I probably put in a week writing all this stuff up and organizing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I overdid it. So I don't think that there's really even that much. I think you could probably, with 20 hours, you can gather all the information you need and get it submitted.
Great, thank you very much.
You bet. You bet.
Chip, I have a question.
Yeah, Bill.
So I think you saw I set up an account, got the whole process started. I think it looks like we've been doing everything that Firewise would ask for years and years. My question is, so we've had significant, I'm on Bear Gulch Road, we've had significant mitigation work going on in Wonderlick Park, but we have also an area that we don't control, the Water Conservation District. Is there a risk that if we start this Firewise process, that we somehow fail out with a bad score due to things that we can't control, and it causes insurance problems for people on the road?
No, nothing like that will cause you a problem with the Firewise program or with anybody else because you've recorded it in the Firewise program. In fact, being aware of it and recording it and then working to get the whatever agency owns that land to help create fire breaks and so forth only improves your safety. And so, if insurers were to see that, they would actually consider that a plus.
Thanks.
You bet. Next, anyone? Someone's got to have a question. MJ? MJ, you always have good questions. No?
Actually, I'm in a store right now. Sorry.
Okay, well, stay away from anybody with the sniffles.
Okay, well, I'll say, Chip, we're ready to go. Looking for your topo map. We got our app submitted, and we're busy doing the second round of assessment, gathering the detail for all the properties. I know it's not required, but what the heck? It's not hard. We have all the stuff. We've been doing it. We just haven't recorded all that stuff over the years.
Yeah, it's amazing, actually, to me. I was really kind of concerned going into this, gee, am I going to be able to find all the receipts and stuff to hit that mark? And it was so simple. It turns out that people are, regularly, a couple of trees come out of the neighborhood.
I think we're easily at 100x on the dollar investment, plus a whole bunch of hours we never really put value on. Not hard to meet those marks. Yeah, we've done a few things, I think, that were not in your list also. Just, we've been making it up for ourselves the last, 5-10 years. So yeah, hey, thanks for doing all this. It'd be great to get something from our insurance companies and all this too.
Yeah, well, I tell you, the more people we have involved, the more sites. I figure we get another few sites on here, and we're going to start dragging the insurers into some meetings just to talk with them and say, what does it take?
Yeah, I'm surprised it says Firewise and it doesn't say just overall emergency preparedness. So I think our training this year, we try to alternate things. This year is going to be earthquakes, but that's as big a risk to us. Maybe it's less frequent, but bigger. So we try to shuffle it up every now and then.
Good, good. Yeah, there's going to be a big focus on earthquake preparedness coming up here through the WPV-Ready program too. So keep an eye on the emails there, and we're going to try and put together a webinar sometime over the next couple of months and start addressing that.
I was wondering.
Yeah.
Hello?
Hello.
I was wondering if the setup of the neighborhood is taken into account, because we only have 2 entrance exits to our neighborhood, and it's on a hill, and like I'm at the top of the hill. So trying to get out of the neighborhood is going to be a real mess, I think, if there's an emergency.
Yes, that's definitely taken into account and something you need to think about during evacuations. Yeah, you need to keep your eye on those discussions, and also just in terms of wildfire risk. You need to be concerned about is wildfire approaching? What direction is it coming from? And are both of those exits still open? And how do you get that word to people? Even the zone haven stuff does not have a fine enough focus on individual streets that they could tell you which way to evacuate, but that's a good resource to have. So these are all issues that we're trying to identify and mitigate, and not just sleep on, because it doesn't go away that way. And yeah, especially in terms of fire risk, because that's going to be your big problem for evacuation, is fire risk. I think that part of your project plan would be to really look at the area right around those exits and make sure that those are particularly hardened, trees limbed up, grasses, nothing burnable on the ground, and so forth. So those people are getting to the end of that road and sitting there trying to turn onto another road. They're not sitting with fire burning on both sides, so hardening those last couple hundred feet at the bottom and top of those roads would seem to me to be a priority for your projects. Yeah, good questions. So one of the things I'd love to see too would be just as, and Bill, you said that you're basically taking the lead there. Do we have any other people that consider themselves the leaders in their community who are here today? I would love to start personal interaction and just do whatever I can to support you on that. If you want to put your name in the chat, send a chat to me, or just raise your hand and I will find you. All right. Do we have any other questions? Let me ask you this. What would be a good time to get together for additional discussion, and rather than just kind of introductory stuff, I would like to kind of focus on some of the people that have started working on this and are working through the application and gathering information, and just start sharing stories about issues that you're finding and any problems that you're having, so that as a community we can all learn from that and get better and make it easier for everyone to to get safer and get the recognition through this program. Would you, is everybody here okay with, say, doing it again in a month with that in mind? Sound good?
Yes,
Yes? Yes?
Sure.
yes.
Yes, me too.
Oh, great, good. I see lots of thumbs up happening here. So, so we'll do that. I'll schedule something. I will get this video out and schedule another meeting, and we'll try and round up and get in touch with everybody who has been here today, and get a good team going, helping each other through the nitty-gritty of just grinding out the paperwork on this thing. It's not difficult, and we'll all be a lot safer and hopefully have cheaper insurance before too long. So good. Any other questions here?
Hey, Chip. Hey, thanks a lot for doing all this, for sure.
Yeah, you bet, Phil. I appreciate you coming, and I
Yeah.
appreciate everybody who showed up today. I'll try and be in touch with you all very soon, and hope we're all fire wise and fire safe and totally impervious to flame before long. Thank you for coming. And unless there are any other questions, I will conclude this at 6:43 and wish you all a very healthy and virus-free rest of the month. And thanks again for coming.
Thank you again, Chip. Fabulous. Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
it's been good. Thank you. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye now.